Welcome to the Unapologetic with Jannine MacKinnon podcast, your go-to place for approachable conversations around sacred sexuality and conscious relationships. I'm your host, Jannine MacKinnon, certified trauma-informed sex, love, and relationship coach who's on a mission to support 1 million women and couples to experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom. This is the space to go deep, to dive below surface level relationships and mess sex and explore the sacredness that sexuality and conscious relationships have to offer. Because deep connection, spiritual sexuality, full body orgasms, and transmuted sexual energy are available to everyone. And I'm here to serve the collective, to provide the knowledge, wisdom, and tools to access them. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful we're able to connect in this way, and I can't wait to dig into the contents of this episode with you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome back, not only to a Tuesday transmission episode inside the Unapologetic with Jannine MacKinnon podcast, but our 100th episode. Wow, we have made it to 100. I am so excited. This feels like such a milestone. It has been admittedly a bit of a long, slow go here within the podcast realms. At the very beginning, I didn't even tell anyone really that I had a podcast. And so I was silently trucking along while I was working through my witch wounds and being okay speaking about sacred sexuality, about orgasms and expansive pleasure and women's anatomy and sex magic and spirituality and all of those things on such a public platform. There was definitely some hurdles for me to get through, but I am so happy we are here now at episode 100. I'm very proud of this body of work. And more than that, I am so grateful for every single one of you who has tuned in, who has been along for the ride, and really being a connection and being a part of this ripple effect of spreading this information, being inspired by it, living a more aligned and sensually embodied life, and then creating this ripple effect by leading this way in our lives, impacting our families, impacting our friends, having these conversations, and slowly raising the vibration of the collective, just one conversation, one embodiment practice at a time. So thank you so much for being a part of that. I am so excited for where this podcast is going. I feel like it's taken around 100 episodes, maybe not quite that long, to really feel comfortable within this realm. Like I said, it was scary talking about sacred sexuality, and I played it safe with women's empowerment and then love, sex, and relationships. But I really know now that for me, being in alignment, it's sacred sexuality. It's about the sensuality. It's about the energetic side of sacred sexuality, weaving in these tantric and Taoist practices and working with things like sex magic, being able to touch into those expansive waves of pleasure that roll through your body, being able to commune with the divine through your devotional pleasure practice ritual and through your intimate experiences with your partner. So we are going to have a whole lot more of that because that's what I love talking about, and you seem to love listening to it. Next week, we also have an awesome episode coming up with Courtney Davis, who is the founder of Wands Pleasure Tools. That is a fantastic episode. I could just talk with her, and we are so on the same wavelength, and we get into a lot of the nitty-gritty of our personal journeys into sacred sexuality, the different pleasure tools we like, the different hurdles we hit on our journey. So stay tuned for that. That's coming next week. But before I dig into this week's topic, which is all about the 3 beliefs you have to drop to be a sensually embodied woman, these 3 beliefs that I see my clients really getting stuck on and that are very life-changing and expansive when they are able to flip the script with these. So that's what we will be getting into. But before we do, in celebration of the 100th episode, and as a huge thank you to all of you, I thought we could have ourselves a little podcast giveaway. So my request or exchange for you is in exchange for you leaving a rating or a review, depending where you listen to podcasts. It's kind of different in each place. For doing that, I would love to enter you into a giveaway to win 1 coaching session with me and 1 year access to the Sensual Embodiment Collective that is launching here at the end of June. Oh, there's so much juice inside there. It's coming together so nicely, and I am just really getting my big attention to detail, ironing out all of these small details so it can really provide that masculine structure and feminine soul so you can just go in and surrender into your practice, know what to do, and just follow your intention, follow your roadmap, follow the Queen's journey, and drop into your devotional weekly pleasure ritual. So that's what you get to win. So all you have to do, and I still want to enter you if you have previously left a rating or a review. So this is for everyone who is a big supporter of the podcast. Just screenshot your rating or review and then DM it to me on Instagram at Jannine.MacKinnon, or send me an email, whichever is easiest. Email is info@JannineMacKinnon.com. I will have both of those linked in the show notes. And we're going to keep this really short so I can keep this high energy going into it. I've got my ovulation energy going this week. And so this is only going to run until Thursday. Let me check the calendar. Thursday, June 5th at midnight. That's when this will close. So you have 3 days if you are listening to this between June 3rd and June 5th. Now is your time. Right now, I recommend you just hit pause, do that quick rating or review, screenshot it, send it my way, and I will enter you into the giveaway for Sensual Embodiment Collective, plus a coaching session with me to work on anything that you are really feeling called to work on when it comes to sacred sexuality, love, sex, and relationships. And that full prize is valued at, I believe, around $650. So it is an awesome prize, and I am honored to gift that to one of you and to be able to guide you through that process. So that's kind of the celebrations that we're bringing into this episode. And now let's get into the value, what you are really here for. And that's, again, all around those 3 beliefs that you have to drop. It's a part of the process. You cannot be a sensually embodied woman if you are still holding on to these. So the 3 beliefs, I'll quickly mention them and then we'll break each of them down, is that you have to earn pleasure, that you have to stay in control at all times. Speaking to you, my type A ladies. And that your orgasm and pleasure are too much work. So let's break this down. And these are all beliefs, as I said, I see come up over and over and over again in my sessions, in my programs, as really being some of those big blocks that get in the way of women's pleasure, that get in the way of really being embodied in your sensuality. And so what a sensually embodied woman is to me is a woman who is not caught up in her head and her to-do lists. She is in her body, experiencing and feeling life through all 5 senses, through her emotions, and is able to flow through with that, with trust in herself, and really be able to feel that liveliness of joy, of being alive, of, again, tapping into all of those senses. Because it really is so beautiful when you're able to embrace that. Colors are brighter. Sensations are more pleasurable. Food tastes better. Simple everyday moments just light up your heart so much more. And so I want all women to get to this point, because for me, that's what life is really all about. I believe we're spiritual beings here to have a human experience, and human experiences are all about feeling. Like, that's what we get to do in this earth suit of ours, is to really feel all these emotions, feel the sensations, be able to see, hear, smell, taste, all of these things. And so let's revel in that rather than being blind to it or numb to it. Going through the day-to-day so caught up in the to-do list, so caught up in the need to control, to do everything right, to not look stupid, to not have judgments, to not be cast out. And so we put ourselves in these small boxes that are so caught up in our heads and so disconnected from our feelings, from our bodies, from our inner essence. And so let's begin to peel back some of those layers here so we can become more aligned with our bodies. Because when you're able to drop those layers of shame and fear and guilt, a big part of this too is like, yes, you're relishing in the pleasure of all of the senses and of your emotions. And you're also so aligned with who you really are. Letting go of those needs to impress and be the good girl, or to push people away and avoid, but to just really be grounded in who we are, show up unapologetically, speak for our wants, needs, and desires, and be met in that, celebrated in that, and just building the momentum of that over and over again. It's just such a juicy way of moving through life. Like, why wouldn't we want that? So let's dig into each of those beliefs, breaking it down. So first one, that you have to earn pleasure. I see this show up in multiple ways. So one sticky point that I see when it comes to, say, a devotional weekly pleasure ritual is feeling like everything else is done, that everyone else's needs are taken care of, that the laundry is put away, that there's no dishes on the counter, and that through doing all of those things, you kind of earn your weekly pleasure ritual, compared to it just being a rhythm of who you are. You don't need to earn your pleasure. You don't need to earn your rest. Other ways I see this come up is centering sex and intimacy and sensuality around someone else, around your partner's needs, feeling like you need to essentially earn your pleasure, that you need to be reciprocal for everything that they are doing, all of the loving they are giving, rather than being able to receive it and feel those sensations and roll with things intuitively. this pops up by being caught in your head. Oh, I should be reciprocating this. I should be touching them in a certain way. Oh, are they liking what I'm doing? And so see how it's very much switching it from being on you and your pleasure and receiving to being on them and their pleasure. And so obviously this gets in the way when we feel like we have to earn our pleasure. We're so caught up in the day-to-day and we're tiring ourselves out. Our pleasure is a resource for us. Our sexual energy can be moved through our body and stored for our body and our energetic body to call on and to use in whatever way is needed. And so if we are, say, in that cycle of earning our devotional pleasure practice, I find that's the cycle that we need it the most. That we're so caught up in doing all the different things that no, we need this devotional pleasure practice. It doesn't matter what needs to get done. This is a mandatory for us. This isn't just our self-care, it's our devotion. And we are worthy of it just as we are. Similarly with the other example of needing to earn and be reciprocal when it comes to pleasure in those partnered situations, when we can flip that to just being okay to receive and to experience. I'm not saying we just lie there and let them do all the work, but there gets to be the shift that instead of thinking about, oh, they're doing this, I should do this, oh, I'm taking so long, I need to make sure that they're staying interested in this sort of thing, or I need to make sure that, okay, they went down on me, I need to go down on them, kind of keeping tabs. And again, that reciprocal really feels like the best word to anchor this and explain this. You're not in the experience, you're in your head. So when we can shift it to just being present in the moment, not keeping tabs, not needing to reciprocate everything, just being there with your partner, being okay receiving for the sake of receiving, because again, you are worthy of it. And then intuitively in the experience, as you're so present with each other's energy and with the sensations, and you're moving your body and you're sounding things, you're going to be touching them and moving and giving them pleasure as well. But it's from a state that is more, again, present and experiencing rather than reacting. I feel like that's kind of that flip when it comes to being a sensually embodied woman. Rather than reacting to the world around you and to life, you're experiencing life. You're living it and moving through it. So likewise in those, say, partnered experiences, you're not reacting to the pleasure given to you that you need to do something back. You're just present in the moment with the pleasure, experiencing, moving through it in whatever way feels good through the body, not in your head. And so how we can begin to make this shift is really anchoring in the feeling that we are worthy of pleasure. Now, of course, my flavor is very much the embodiment side of it. That's what SEC, the Sensual Embodiment Collective, is all about, which the waitlist is open for. But it's using embodiment practices and pleasure practices to rewire our nervous system to feel worthy of pleasure, instead of kicking into kind of our flight or fight or freeze or fawn. That's what's actually kicking up. Most people think of the fight or flight response, but there are other pieces to it. And where we feel like we need to be reciprocal, that's our fawn response. That's the people pleaser response. That's the good girl response. And so that's ingrained in our nervous system. And so it takes a nervous system centered practice, like the embodiment practices inside SEC, to be able to really flip that script quite rapidly from being in that opened state. You can rewire your subconscious beliefs like this one and others to feel anchored in that worthiness. And for those that really like the logical side of things, I will just mention, like, we as women, we have the only human organ that's sole purpose is pleasure. Our clitoris, the only function it provides for our body is pleasure. And it has over 10,000 nerve endings. Pleasure is quite literally our birthright. It is not something that we need to earn. When we think about our other pleasure centers, they tend to be multi-purpose, right? For reproduction, or even for like peeing, if you think of a man's penis, right? Reproduction and peeing and pleasure. All of our different parts, the clitoris is the one that's sole purpose is pleasure, and it is jam-packed with nerve endings to make sure you can experience that pleasure. So we are so innately worthy of this pleasure. All of our bodies are wired to experience it. It is our layered on beliefs that get in the way of us experiencing it. And so that's why it's that embodiment work, the mindfulness, the presence on the body level that really makes the impact. All right, moving through now to the second belief. And that is that you have to stay in control at all times. This is a huge one that, again, I see in my sessions and in my programs, is a lot of the women that feel like they need to do everything right. Often it's the eldest daughter or the only child, the one who had to care for her parents or for her siblings and step into different kind of roles that wasn't necessarily the carefree kid. And so she had to help everyone else. She had to make sure she was doing a good job to just get love or validation. And so that continued throughout life, and perhaps that transferred into that validation through doing a good job at work, building a business, different things like that. In relationships, it carried over that you need to do everything yourself. No one else can do it right, so I'm just going to do it myself because that's how it gets done right. Or I've always been independent. I can do it all on my own. I don't need anyone's help, right? This was so me for many, many years. And these are safety mechanisms, and they are our need to control things, to keep everything running smoothly. And because that's how we feel safe is when we are in control. Also, when I see people who have grown up in various ranges of abusive or traumatic households. And again, this has a very big range. It's not necessarily like beating on you big T trauma, but there's that little t trauma. There's those different comments that put you down day after day after day. They're the different comments that tell you your body is wrong and sinful day after day after day. They're the way you see your parents' relationships play out so tumultuously and fucked up, and you see how it hurts themselves and the people around them day after day after day. This is little t trauma, and this is what leads many of you to feel like you need to be in control at all times. And this gets in your way completely when it comes to being sensually embodied, when it comes to experiencing those expansive waves of pleasure and orgasms, because in order to do that and in order to experience and feel that, you have to surrender. You have to let go of control. And in order to do that, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust yourself so deeply that you can handle whatever comes up. Another way I see this played out is people being told that their emotions are too much, that they feel too much. Oh, you're so dramatic. And so they've quieted down their emotions. They've disconnected from their body and their sensations because they're told it's wrong, told it's too much. And so they've totally disconnected from these beautiful gifts of feeling. Again, that's what we're here to do. And that's what we need to do to be connected with our sensuality and to be connected with pleasure. We have to feel, we have to be tapped into our body. And so we need to feel safe to feel everything, not just the high points, but the low points too. And through that, we expand our capacity more and more for what we can hold. And that comes through building a foundation of love, safety, and belonging within ourselves. That's how we begin to trust ourselves, to let go of control, to surrender into ourselves. Because surrendering into pleasure isn't necessarily about surrendering into the other person. Yes, that's a piece of it. We need to feel safe with the other person. But more than that, and what has to come first before we can even trust surrendering into someone else, is trusting ourselves, is to surrender into ourselves, into our pleasure, into our sensations. And that trust piece is that we have the discernment to choose appropriate situations to put ourselves in, trust ourselves to speak up for our wants and our needs and to stand up for ourselves when we need to, trust in ourselves that we're going to make the choices that are aligned for us, that feel good for us. And so all of this takes time to build. It happens through a relationship with yourself. And it's building that foundation of that love, safety, and belonging, loving ourselves compassionately and tenderly. So you can't surrender into yourself if you hate yourself and nitpick yourself apart. You're not going to feel safe to surrender into that, right? That's why love is a huge piece. Why we need to love ourselves. So we can trust ourselves, surrender into ourselves. Of course, we need to feel safe. That's that trust piece. And that belonging. We need to feel like we belong as we are to be able to show up unapologetically, to be able to show up as we are. Because if we don't feel like we belong within ourselves, our fear of judgment is going to be so loud, and it is going to get in the way and will contort who we are to be able to belong and get validation and love from someone else. So we need to have that peace internally. It's so important. And when we build all of these things, and again, for me, it really is about embodiment. We can talk about these things. We can read the books. We can listen to the podcasts. And our nervous system, our subconscious beliefs are still going to be hardwired the same way until we do that deep inner work. And so the devotional embodiment pleasure rituals inside SEC is where you get to move through this in a way that is at your own pace, in a way that feels good. It's not like so deep and re-traumatizing. It's fun, it's pleasurable, and it's at a pace that feels good. It's not like ripping open any wounds and like rehashing things and feeling so open and sore after. It's like, no, you don't have to rehash these things to heal from them. You can do self-love embodiment breath work, opening up your system through the breath, and then your affirmations are so much more powerful for rewiring your body from that open and activated state. You can bring in 5 senses realities of the sensually embodied version of you, creating safety in your body and your nervous system as this version of you. Visualization works. There's so many studies about it and how it's proven to help performance in athletes and high performers and so many different things. And we can use it to feel safe within ourselves, visualizing that version of us, how we move, how we make decisions, how we interact with others. And it creates safety in our systems of living this way. So that's inside SEC as well, and that's something you can do on your own. And so that kind of covers that belief around feeling like you need to control everything at all times, and how you're able to flip that into, I trust myself to feel and handle whatever comes up. And through that, you're able to surrender into pleasure, into your body, into feeling all the good feelings. And so our third belief is that your orgasm and pleasure are too much work. And again, I see this so much because we see the movies and we hear conversations, and our partners are able to climax so quickly. And so it seems like we're too much work. It takes too much time. Oh, is it really going to be worth it for them to spend that much time on me and my pleasure? And so right there, I think you can tell we're getting in our heads about it. We're not in our pleasure if we're feeling like we're too much work. And there's a few things I want to touch on this. I have a podcast episode that I will link in the show notes that's all about why it takes women longer to orgasm. And so studies show that it takes roughly, I believe it's 20 to 40 minutes for a woman to feel fully aroused and engorged before penetration. And then another 20 plus minutes to reach orgasm after that point. So right there, like validation, that makes sense. We are the way we are. Now, a few different comments that I'll receive from that is like, that's a long time. That takes a really long time. That's too much work, right? And so there's a few replies I have to that. One, that warm up can happen long before you're actually in the bedroom. It doesn't mean you have to be kissing and touching for 20 to 40 minutes before penetration. This is having his arms wrapped around you in the kitchen, nuzzling your neck. This is just having that nice hug after work, fully aligning your bodies. These are the way you're able to emotionally connect about your days and what's going on for you. These are the different flirtatious remarks throughout the day. So all of this is going to speed up the process. Perhaps if you're super closed off, it may take the longer side of things, but to just give an example, like for me, where we're having all of these things, I'd say like a full lock the door to come out of the door is like 20 to 30 minutes a lot of the time. And so the other piece I want to add to this too, in terms of the feeling like you're too much work, that it takes too long, is your pleasure isn't just good for you, it's good for them. And again, there's kind of a twofold to this particular thing as well. So when you are fully aroused and engorged, the clitoris also, like, that's a big piece that's getting a ton of blood flow, and it is erecting. It looks different, obviously, than a men's erection because it's internal. But with all that increased blood flow, you are getting enlarged. And that tissues, it goes all around. And so it feels very good to their penis for you to be fully aroused and engorged. So one, sensationally, it feels so much better for them when you are at that point. So getting you to that point isn't just about your pleasure, it makes it better for them too. And then secondly, generally when you're looking at masculine feminine dynamics, and again, we all have mixes of these within ourselves, most relationships are going to have a strong feminine and strong masculine counterpart, no matter what the dynamics are. And so the masculine partner, often the male partner, gets off providing. That's what he's geared towards doing. And if he can see that you are fully aroused in your pleasure, receiving from him, he's going to get off just on that. And so that's extra arousing and extra fun for him too. So no, it's not that you're too much work. It's that this is the way your body is hardwired. And again, I have a full podcast that goes into the details of that. But circling back to that first belief, like, you're worthy of pleasure. And if you feel safe and you trust yourself and you trust your partner and you feel safe with them, and then you know that, again, you're worthy of your pleasure. It's not that you take too much work. It's that spending this time and attention to your pleasure and your orgasm is great for both of you. Yes, it's awesome for you, but it's awesome for them too, and for your whole experience. And when you can really stay anchored in all of these pieces, when you can flip these beliefs around, that's how you are going to be able to surrender into those expansive waves of pleasure. These beliefs is what's hardwiring your nervous system, holding you back and blocking you. No matter what toys you bring into the experience, if you have these beliefs, they will stand in your way. There will be a wall that your pleasure can only reach so much until you shift these beliefs. And once you do, that wall, now it might be a go right down, dissolve right away. Most of the time, it's going to be a little bit slower coming down as you build your trust with yourself and your partner and your experiences. And throughout that, you build momentum. You build your pleasure capacity. You begin to weave in those 3 keys of Tantra that I also have a full podcast episode on, the breath, sound, and movement. And you're able to surrender into those expansive, rippling waves of pleasure. And these are a must. They're a must to be able to do that. So if you resonate with any of those beliefs, shoot me a DM. Like, I'd love to chat. No matter where you end up going, if you're interested in Sensual Embodiment Collective, amazing. If not, I am still just happy to chat with you and be that sounding board and be that safe space to have these conversations. And I think it's so important to be able to do that, just bringing it out into the air and having the clarity around these belief systems can be really huge. And then beginning to flip that script on that, know that you are so worthy of pleasure and that you can trust yourself to surrender into yourself. And then the world is your oyster. There really is no cap to how much pleasure you can experience. And I truly want all women and all couples and everyone on this planet to be able to experience this, because you really, truly can commune with the divine through your pleasure, through your sexuality, and become one with the cosmos. And when you know that's available, like for me, I'm like, why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you want to taste that? Because it really is so beautiful and it's accessible to absolutely everyone. So I think that covers our main beliefs. To recap, those 3 beliefs are that you have to earn pleasure, that you have to stay in control at all times, and that your orgasm and pleasure are too much work. If you have any of these beliefs, maybe a combination, maybe all of them, they're absolutely, without a doubt, getting in the way of you receiving and feeling and experiencing true expansive pleasure. And it doesn't have to be that way. There's so much out there for you. You can absolutely flip these belief systems and walk a whole new, sensually embodied, pleasure-filled life that I would absolutely love to support you on. Sensual Embodiment Collective waitlist is open right now. I will leave all the information in the show notes. So excited for that. It is just your go-to space for your weekly devotional pleasure ritual, where I walk you through everything so you can surrender into the goodness, get out of your head, rewire your system for more expansive pleasure. Also, celebrating 100th episode, we have that giveaway. If you haven't already done so, please pause, leave a rating or a review, screenshot it, and send it to me either on Instagram at Jannine.MacKinnon or email info@JannineMacKinnon.com. I will enter you into that awesome giveaway with a free coaching session, as well as 1 year access to Sensual Embodiment Collective once it launches, and that will run until Thursday, June 5th. So thank you so much for being along on this ride with me. I hope this podcast was helpful for you. I know these belief shifts have been so helpful for the women that I've worked with, so I trust that there is some good gold nuggets in there for you. If you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead, hit that subscribe or follow button so you can receive those new episodes every single Tuesday in the morning, and share with a friend. Like, if this is being impactful, let's create that ripple effect even more by sharing these conversations with those that we know can hear these messages, that can align themselves even more with the sensually embodied true essence version of themselves. Thank you. Again, stay tuned for Courtney Davis coming next week, the founder of Wands Pleasure Tools. And I am sending you off with so much love. Thank you for joining us inside the Unapologetic with Jannine MacKinnon podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you feel called, I would so appreciate it if you left us a review to help us reach more women and couples so they can experience deeper connection and more expansive pleasure inside and outside the bedroom too. Until next time, embrace your desire and experience your magic.